Today, nearly every liter of petrol sold in India contains 20% of ethanol. Most people don't notice it. But behind that invisible 20% lies one of India's biggest economic bets. Billions of dollars are being invested. New distilleries are opening. Sugar miles are expanding. Even automobile companies are redesigning engines. On paper, it looks remarkable success. But not everyone agrees. Some economists call it as India's smartest economic decisions. Others warns it could be a pressure on water resources, agriculture, and public finances. Some believe that it is creating stronger future for Indian farmers. Others argue that biggest winners are sugar companies. Some says that it is reducing India's dependency on imported oil, while others ask at what cost. So who's right? Is ethanol the future of India's fuel, or it is simply the best compromise India has today? That's exactly what we're going to find out. By the end of this video, we won't judge ethanol based on advertisement or government announcements or social media opinion. We will judge the only way that really matters. That is, does ethanol makes economic sense for India? Namaste friends, I'm Rohini and you're watching the knowledge series of fincash.com. When India decided to reduce its dependence on imported oil, it had several options: electric vehicle, hydrogen, compressed natural gas, biofuels, or simply continue importing crude and absorb the cost. So why did government put its weight behind ethanol? After all, EVs are cleaner, hydrogen sounds futuristic, and both are often described as the future of mobility. So why invest in a fuel that still gets mixed with petrol? But here is something most people do not know. Ethanol is not a new fuel. More than a century, Henry Ford designed the Model T to run on either gasoline or ethanol. Brazil has been using ethanol blend fuel on a large scale since 1970s. Even India launched its ethanol blended petrol program in 2003. So the real question isn't why did India suddenly discover ethanol? The correct question is why is India accelerating ethanol now? And the answer isn't technology, it is economics. Let's start with electric vehicles. An EV transition doesn't require a new car. It requires charging infrastructure, battery manufacturing, a stronger power grid, and years of investment. Hydrogen faces even more bigger challenge. It's still expensive to produce, costly to transport, and lacks the infrastructure needed for mass adoption. CNG works well, but only in cities where pipeline networks already exist. Scaling it across country is much slower. Ethanol was different. It didn't require India to replace millions of vehicles overnight. It could be blended into petrol already being sold. It could use the existing fuel distribution network. And with E20 compatible vehicles gradually entering the market, the transition could begin immediately. So, in other words, India didn't choose ethanol because it was a perfect fuel. It chose ethanol because it was the fastest and most practical way to reduce oil dependence using infrastructure that already existed. But practicality alone does not justify national policy because blending ethanol into petrol comes at a cost. So the next question is, what exactly does India gain from it? And more importantly, does ethanol actually save the country money? Is India actually making money from ethanol transition? Because replacing petrol only makes sense if the economics work, and according to the government of India, it does. Since the ethanol blended petrol program was accelerated, India says it has saved over 1 lakh crore in foreign exchange, replaced more than 310 lakh metric tons of crude oil imports, reduced carbon emission by around 580 lakh metric tons, generated over 1.6 lakh crore in additional income for farmers. At first glance, these numbers look extraordinary. So case closed, right? Not quite. Because numbers without context can be misleading. So let's start with the biggest claim. 1 lakh crore in foreign exchange savings. What does this actually mean? Every liter of ethanol blended into petrol is one less liter of petrol refined from imported crude oil. Since India imports nearly 90% of its crude oil, every barrel that doesn't need to be imported means fewer dollars leaving the country. That reduces pressure on India's foreign exchange reserves, strengthens the rupee, reduces exposure to global crude oil shocks, and improves energy security. That's the government's biggest gain. No cheaper petrol, not even cleaner fuel. It is greater economic resilience. But here is the twist. Many people assume the government chose ethanol because it's cheaper than petrol. That's not necessarily true. At today's crude oil prices, ethanol can actually cost more than the petrol it replaces. So if ethanol isn't always the cheaper fuel, why is India still promoting it? Because the government isn't comparing the price of 1 liter of ethanol with 1 liter of petrol. It is comparing the cost of producing fuel at home with the long-term cost of depending on imported crude oil. Those are two very different calculations. But that is the only one side of story, because no policy comes free. To build this ethanol ecosystem, India invested heavily. New distilleries, storage infrastructure, pipeline modification, refinery upgrades, interest subvention scheme. Thousands of crores have gone into making this transition possible. Which brings us to the next very important question of the story. Did India spend 1 rupee to actually save 2 rupees? Or did it spend 1 rupee to save 80 paise? Because that's the difference between a brilliant economic policy and an expensive one. To answer that, we need to follow the money. Who is actually benefiting the most from India's ethanol mission? And the answer may surprise you. Every major government policy creates winner, but it also creates cost. So the real question is not, does ethanol help India? The real question is, who benefits most from it and who ultimately pays the price. So let's start with farmers. Government data says that ethanol blended petrol program has generated over 1.6 lakh crore in additional earnings for farmers since 2014 to 50. At the same time, delayed sugarcane dues have fallen sharply as mills gain an additional revenue stream through ethanol. So let us understand this why. Earlier, sugar mills depended entirely on sugar. Whenever India produced excess sugar, price crashed. Mills delayed payment, and that is why farmers suffered. Now part of sugarcane is diverted towards ethanol, which means sugar mills have another buyer, that is the oil marketing companies. That improves cash flow and it helps sugar mills clear farmers' payment more faster. So the verdict here is, ethanol has unquestionably strengthened the economics of sugar industry and improved payment cycles for many sugarcane farmers. Now let's come to the part 2, sugar companies. Many sugar companies has transformed themselves into integrated sugar and ethanol business. Instead of relying on one volatile product, now they have multiple streams of revenue. Sugar, ethanol, power from bagasse. This diversification has made earnings more stable and encouraged significant investment in new distillery capacity. So the verdict here is, if one industry has gained the most certainty from India's ethanol mission, it is the sugar industry. Now let's focus on the government. Government isn't producing ethanol, nor it is selling ethanol. So why the push? Because 1 liter of ethanol replaces part of imported crude. According to the government, the program has substituted more than 310 lakh metric tons of crude oil and reduced around 930 lakh metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions since 2014 and 50. That's the real objective, not cheaper petrol, but energy security. But if everyone is winning, where is the catch? This brings us to the next part, that is water. This is the first serious challenge. Sugarcane is one of India's most water-intensive crop. The Niti Aayog Ministry of Petroleum Roadmap estimates producing sugar requires roughly 1600 to 2100 liters of water per kilogram, implying about 3000 liters of water for 1 liter of sugar-based ethanol. Rice-based ethanol can require even more water across cultivation. That is why the government has increasingly diversified towards maize and other feed stock instead of relying only on sugarcane. As per reports, maize now accounts for about 37% of ethanol feedstock in 2025 and 6. This is an important nuances. India has recognized water challenge and it is already changing its feedstock strategy. Now coming to the next part, food versus fuel. Now here is another challenge. Should food become fuel? This has been debated across the world. If too much grain is diverted towards ethanol, food prices can rise. Animal feed costs can rise. Government then face a difficult balancing act. India has attempted to reduce the risk by expanding the use of damaged food grains, surplus grain, and maize rather than relying exclusively on sugarcane or food grade rice. Now, coming to the next part, what about you? What about us? This is the question every driver asks. That is, what is in it for me? Now, let's look at the facts. Yes, E20 fuel can reduce mileage by around 3 to 5% in some older vehicles because ethanol contains less energy than petrol. That's a fair criticism. Lower mileage means you may need slightly more fuel to travel the same distance. But here is the important point. Ethanol was never introduced to improve your car's performance. It was introduced to reduce India's dependence on imported crude oil. Even with E20, around 80% of every liter is still petrol. India will continue importing crude oil for years. Ethanol doesn't eliminate dependence, but it reduces it. So what about the engine damage? For older vehicles not designed for E20, long-term use may decrease wear on certain fuel system components. That is why manufacturers recommend checking vehicle compatibility. For newer E20 compatible vehicles, the engine is specifically designed to operate safely with higher ethanol blend. So yes, there's no doubt that there is a compromise. For the drivers, slightly lower fuel efficiency. And for the country, lower dependence on imported oil. Whether that compromise remains worthwhile, this depends on keeping the greater benefits than the cost. So one thing is for sure, the long-term success of this policy will depend on something much bigger. Can India continue expanding ethanol without putting pressure on food production, water resource, or the economy itself? Because that's where the real debate starts. Not whether ethanol works, but how far will India take it? That brings us to the final question. Did India make the right bet? So after looking at the data, did India make the right bet? We would say yes, but not because ethanol is a better fuel than petrol. No, it isn't. Petrol still delivers better energy density, better mileage, and better overall efficiency for conventional engines. But if only question was which fuel performs better, and petrol still wins. But that was never India's biggest problem. The India's biggest problem was this: how do you reduce dependence on imported crude oil without waiting decades for the next energy transition? And that's where ethanol changes the equation. It doesn't replace petrol. It replaces a portion of imported petrol with fuel produced in India. It creates another source of income for farmers. It creates more money within the Indian economy and reduces India's exposure to volatile global oil prices. Those are significant economic gains. But this strategy has no clear limits. If ethanol begins competing with food production, puts excessive pressure on groundwater, or costs more than value it creates, then expanding it further stops making economic sense. A successful policy isn't one that keeps increasing blending targets. It's one that knows where the benefits end and the cost begins. At this stage of India's development, ethanol is one of the most practical ways to strengthen energy security while buying time for the next generation of mobility. Electric vehicles will grow, hydrogen will evolve, new technologies will emerge. Until then, ethanol gives India something extremely valuable. That is time. Time to reduce oil dependence. Time to strengthen domestic energy security. Time to build the infrastructure for what's next. And probably that's the biggest lesson from the story. The debate was never about petrol versus ethanol. It was dependence versus resilience. Petrol is still the better fuel, but for India today, ethanol is a smarter strategy because it was never about fuel policy. It was about economic policy disguised as one.